can't hear what you're saying. What is going on, Rotogrinders? Dean here. It's Dean 7904 if you want to get all technical. I mean, it's 5:30 on the East Coast, 2:30 on the West Coast, 4:30 Tennessee time. I still need a haircut. I'm still wearing this ridiculous hat. Taco Fall, UCF, represent. Of course, it's time for the flagship show here at Rotogrinders. It's called Grinderslive. Joining me today, returning champion by default. He's back once again. It's Grant Neefer. Grant, is somebody thirsty for a beverage?
I'm thirsty. And also, I learned how to braid.
Yeah, did you use like a YouTube, a tutorial of some sort? How'd you figure that out?
No, I used to braid my beard. Kyle Lowry's out, and Andrew Wiggins is questionable. Just so you know.
What? Okay.
Yeah, just came across. But yeah, I've known how to braid since my beard. I know what I'm doing. And now it's gone. Nope, now it's not gone.
You're getting rid of it?
I just wanted to show you.
I didn't even get a chance to take a picture, a screenshot of it.
Exactly.
Well, the body parts are coming fast and furious. 10-gamer, obviously. Kyle Lowry out for personal reasons. Wiggins downgraded. Never really good when you get that midday downgrade to questionable. And, you're sitting down, right, Grant? I'm assuming you're sitting down with that absolutely preposterous. Your hair might be worse than mine. It's a close call. It's pretty terrible. You're sitting down. LeBron James is questionable tonight. I'm not sure if you heard.
And so is Anthony Davis.
And so is Anthony Davis. I'm tired of trying to guess right on this, and I keep guessing wrong on it. But, like, in theory, it's a back-to-back. In the middle of a 3-4. They're playing against the terrible Bulls. It's a late game. Hey, let me say this before anything, Grant. Well, you want to know what I'm thankful for as far as this slate? You ready for it?
Go on.
There's 10 games. 10 games going down tonight. How many games start at 7 o'clock?
1.
Yes. Were you pausing for effect or to build anticipation, or what was going on there?
I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah. So the plan is, we always talk about buying yourself extra information, and sometimes the information doesn't come, and sometimes it's just like, it's just worthless. You're just delaying the inevitable. But tonight, by the way, sometimes the information comes way, way, way close to the tip off, and you end up playing 66% Colin Sexton. But that's my problem. I should have figured that out. I should not have left. I picked a bad time to grab a drink last night. But hey, it's just daily fantasy sports. All we care about is tonight only. We don't care about our teams yesterday. Phoenix and Detroit is the only team playing at 7 o'clock. And my current plan right now is to play nobody in that game. Maybe I'll throw like one guy in a lineup and just kind of backload it and just sort of figure it out when I get there. But I want that extra half hour's worth of information. And I do not believe I'm playing anybody in Phoenix, Detroit. We don't need anybody in that game, do we? There's a couple good plays. Paul's fine. Ayton's fine. But, I'm Booker's still – he's not as good with Paul out there stealing his assist, and his price is not adjusted enough. Jay Crowder is an interesting punt, I suppose, basically a 3-and-D guy. But I know this is where I'm starting, and we'll get some more body parts. But just I think it's huge as far as a slate to understand that you can just not play anybody in this first game and get yourself an extra half hour.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not playing anyone from that game. There's no real point to. I mean, you can always take a shot on Paul. You can always take a shot on Booker, although that's just going to make you wait for a while. Realistically, no one from the Phoenix game is really that applicable to a 10-game slate.
I see Eric in the chat. What up, chat? What up, YouTube? Feel free to like, subscribe, turn on the notifications. We're not going to grovel. We're not going to beg. We're not going to stoop. Well, we would appreciate the like. Sure. Sign up, notifications, the whole good deal. Asking me how I ended up doing. I actually won some cash games last night, some heads-up games with Sexton, and it would have been a really, really good lineup if he would have played some basketball. But again, I'm only answering that because the question was asked. Okay. All right, other body parts, of course, in Boston. Basically, their whole front court's out. The Williams boys, both Grant. I wrote Grant twice. Grant Williams and Robert Williams, the Time Lord. Tristan Thompson's also not going to play. Jeff Teague is available for what it's worth. Killian Hayes is going to be out. I think he's out for a while. Orlando, we got an eye as well too, and hopefully we get information on that. But we know MCW is going to be out. Fultz out for the season, ACL. That's unfortunate. He got paid though, so at least that's a good thing for him. Evan Fournier, once again, he is questionable, and Aaron Gordon on the front end of a back-to-back is going to be out. So Orlando's super, super thin. Fournier is interesting if he plays. If he doesn't, man, minutes are the names that we're looking at as far as the Magic players that may get some run this evening just are horrific, and I don't want to play any of them. But, salary cap reasons and minutes reasons, you may be tempted for some reasons. Of course, KD and Kyrie are both still out. LeVert is the nuts. Christian Wood's questionable if he sits. Boogeyman Cousins, who went nuts the other night, is probably going to do the same. Steph Curry, he's expected to play with that ankle. KCP also questionable for the Lakers as well too. And De'Aaron Fox questionable, who all right, that one burned me too. That one's super interesting, Grant, because our optimal is not going to show you. Like right now, it has him in, and I believe it's the front end of a back-to-back for what it's worth for Sacramento. And also, speaking of that, I should mention Westbrook has a finger. He's expected to play tonight. It's the front end of a back-to-back. It's weird that they just ruled him in. Why not give him an extra day? Because he's almost definitely not going to play tomorrow or one of these two games. But that's where we're at right now. But optimals are not going to show Halliburton popping. But if Fox sits, Halliburton is like the best thing Sacramento's done in the last 10 years or whatever. He looks really, really good. It looks legit. Not a monster as far as fantasy points per minute, but right around 1. And he's pretty cheap. And I imagine he would draw the start there if Fox falls off. Yeah, I don't know why I'm starting there, but what do you think of the Kings situation or anything you want to focus on? Boston, of course, we'll get to. It's not just the fact that, they're out with a bunch of guys. It's a nut matchup there against Washington too. So it's just a beautiful situation for guys like Tatum and Brown and Tice. But yeah, speak to Boston if you want to, and then feel free to pivot to Sacramento, what may come if Fox sits.
Yeah, pretty much play all the Boston players. They're going up against Washington, one of the worst defensive teams and the highest paced team in the NBA. They currently have a 120.5 total. Boston is the absolute nut spot here. You can go with any of the guys that are playing. Jeff Teague coming in kind of hurts Pritchard a little bit. That was just released before we started up. But yeah, like pretty much Boston's in by far the best spot. It's that simple. Play Boston players or don't if you don't want to. But my plan is to fade that first game, have a lot of Boston exposure. Hope I get a little bit more news, but yeah, so Boston is the best spot here. After that, Sacramento is enticing. Toronto is enticing. I mean, we're on court IQ since we literally just got the information. But I'm planning on using a lot of Van Vliet. Like both of them were obviously playing a ton of minutes, and then now without Lowry in there, I need to figure out what secondary pieces I really want to use over on Toronto. But right now, I have to assume that without him in there, that probably we're not going to be able to run too much of a court IQ since Lowry plays so many minutes. But yeah, as of right now, it looks like Van Vliet gets a decent usage uptick of 3.8%. Not really a huge fantasy point uptick, but I don't think that really matters too much. It's mostly like he probably hasn't shot as well. What we're more paying attention to is the 3.8% usage uptick. He's got a 28% usage without Lowry on the floor. So Van Vliet's someone I'm going to be looking at very heavily. I already was planning on using a decent amount of him, and now I'm probably going to come pretty close to lock him in. We'll see what SBK has to say when he opts in on the show. But Van Vliet at 8.1K seems a little bit underpriced going up against Sacramento, 115 play team total. They're expected to win it, but knowing how they played pretty much all season long, they'll probably keep the game close. But yeah, secondary pieces. I mean, Powell maybe.
Powell probably jumps in the starting lineup. I'm thinking Terrence Davis at 3K still minimum can be interesting. Depending on how big or small this game goes, Boucher for sure is interesting. We know, and especially on a FanDuel, because it's the way FanDuel and Yahoo, just the way he takes advantage of that scoring system with the stocks. And also Baines is falling out of favor, it seems like. So again, it's a 10-game slate. There's a lot of good plays out there. But just kind of worth monitoring that. And we know how tight that rotation is in Toronto. And also they're desperate. I think they're 1-6. I know it's the start of the season, but Toronto, a team that was in the finals, not last year, but the year previously. Of course, Kawhi was in that team, but still there's plenty of talent there. And it's just strange to see Toronto at 1-6. I believe they've lost some close games, but and Kyrie's Lowry, whatever reason, not playing tonight, leader of that team essentially. Yeah, they're going to run. Siakam's going to play 40 minutes, assuming nothing goofy happens. And FEV is going to play 40 minutes, assuming nothing goofy happens. And same deal, even Anunoby. And I think Boucher is a really interesting tournament play. And I'm curious what Davis probably gets some run off the bench. I don't know if like 20 or 25 minutes is enough. Like you said, we'll yield to Keach. SBK is going to be joining the show from the projections team in about 5 minutes or so. Of course, Devin, our fabulous multitasking producer, he joins the show with about 15 minutes left. Not just yet, but right now he's compiling questions in chat. I see people chatting and asking things, talking about the slate, and we'll talk about my ski cap as well too. I had to represent for Taco Fall. The chances he may get some run tonight. Oh, everybody wants to see it, but I don't know how much run he's going to get. Just sort of fun to imagine. Devin's going to join the show, and all the questions that are being asked in chat right now. We asked two things. Tell us, is it a tournament play? Is it a cash game play? and what site are you playing on. It makes it so much easier. We're showing off, of course, the Lineup HQ tool. If you guys want to use that tool at your own leisure, you can get $10 off your first month just for a specific sport. If you just want to play basketball, or if you want all the sports with the exception of NASCAR, you can get a combo platter deal as well. Both ways, $10 off. That link is dropped in chat for you guys right now. And Grant, I know you had a couple plays for the people as far as Monkey Knife Fight. 100% deposit bonus, $50 off using the promo code Grinders, Grinders. What are those winners tonight? Give the people some winners, Grant.
I believe that one was, I don't know, there's a few in the Charlotte-New Orleans game. Ingram's fantasy point projection was a little low. Hayward's was a little bit low. Melo's was a little bit low. And Zion's was a little bit low. But essentially, you pick the more or less fantasy points. It pays 3.2 to 1 or 2.2 to 1, whatever it is, if you end up winning. And so it's all about correlating plays. And all those lines are a little bit low, especially if this game ends up staying close. They all play about load of minutes, and they all end up hitting. So either the more or lesses over on the Charlotte game are pretty decent over spots or more spots on all those guys with fantasy point production.
Yeah, I believe your official picks for the record that's on the screen right now, or at least it was on the screen, was Ingram over 42.5 points. And I like that. Over 42.5 fantasy points. And Hayward also over 37.5 fantasy points. I see the people in the chat. They just want to talk about the ball on ball in that game. Are we excited about that, Lonzo? Is that a thing?
Oh, it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I'm excited.
From a fantasy perspective, do we care, though?
Lonzo, not as much. I still think LaMelo is a good play, even in a slower pace matchup going up against Pelicans.
That's the Stan Van Gundy, his effect as far as that team. If you check out the pace, we only have 7 or 8 games or so as far as our sample, but New Orleans is the 5th slowest team in this league, and their defensive rating is the 4th best. So, we used to love playing against New Orleans, and now they're slower and better defensively. So, not as appealing, obviously. Of course, they have a pretty tight rotation as far as rostering their players. You basically know where the minutes will be delegated. As far as LaMelo, I don't think he closed last game. We see him close sometimes. Maybe they get him a few extra minutes against his brother. Who knows? All right, we're going to bring SBK on in just a few minutes otherwise. But as far as what's your plan for the Lakers? Because, again, we're not going to have information at lock. We might get information at 9 or 8 o'clock Eastern time. The Boston game's already started. Now, maybe nothing happens. Maybe, the Lakers lost last night. Maybe they want to feel like they get a W. They want to get a statement game, bounce back, whatever. My thought was that I think LeBron sits and I think Davis plays. But I thought Davis was going to sit last night and LeBron was going to play. This is the hometown team for Anthony Davis. So that was sort of my goofy way of justifying that perspective. But 9.5 is the line currently in Vegas. How do you set your team up as far as what ifs, as far as the Lakers situation? There's plenty of games. There's 3 games that are late, and the Wiggins being questionable, I don't really know who would benefit if Wiggins. Damian Lee, Wanamaker. Do you want any of these guys? And Curry, as far as we know, he's going to warm up. He's going to be fine. He's probable as far as his ankle, but yeah, there is some options if you just stack late for what it's worth.
Yeah, I know it's pretty tough, especially there's a lot of news that we're waiting for. My plan right now is I think I'm going to pretty close to lock in Van Vliet, knowing that I can swap some stuff around. The problem is, what other players am I going to end up playing? Holmes, I think, is a decent play in the later game. Bagley, I don't think is a terrible play, assuming he ends up getting a decent amount of minutes. Barnes isn't the worst, but Halliburton becomes a great play if Fox ends up missing. Any number of different things can happen. So I'm probably going to pop a decent amount of ownership, kind of stack up those later games in some lines. I'm going to essentially be doing 2 different stacks tonight, throwing one-offs in all my other lineups, but it's going to be the Washington-Boston stack and then just a full-on probably 2 late game stacks, maybe between the Clippers and the Warriors and Toronto versus Sacramento, and then kind of change everything around based on if LeBron is sitting or if Davis is sitting or if both are sitting. And that'll really allow me a lot of flexibility because there's no guys that I have to play. I like the Boston players. There's always a chance that, or a lot of people are going to be going pretty hard on that game. And there's always a chance it turns into a blowout. This is the NBA nowadays. It can happen at any given time. So I feel like you either stack the Boston game or you kind of avoid most of it outside of 1 or 2 pieces.
Yeah, I mean, you could just lock in Tice and just figure it out later or something like that. That's something you can certainly do. As far as players that just feel really, really good, Levert, the price is not adjusted fully there. 7-4, I believe, on DK. I want to say like 6-5 or so on FanDuel, like 26, give or take, off the dome on Yahoo. Just feels like a phenomenal play there. They are on a back-to-back. It is worth throwing this out. Back-to-back for Brooklyn, for the Lakers, for Memphis. Front end for Phoenix, Charlotte, Washington, Milwaukee, Sacramento, and Orlando. So that, we always like the guys on an island game, especially when it comes to certain players. Hey, let me ask you this. Keats is coming on in just a second, I know, but before we bring Keats on, what if we get Wood out? Are we just lock buttoning Boogie
You're
again?
not supposed to do that in public.
Well, okay, yes, fair. What if we get Christian Wood out?
There you go.
There's a follow-up. Go ahead. What if we get Christian Wood not playing this evening? Grant?
I mean, Boogie makes a decent play at 5.1K. Yeah. Like the usage is going to go up for Wall. Like both of them make decent plays. Like what Cousins has had his minutes or his price go up a bit from 4. Yeah, it's still a little cheap, but like there's always a chance that Boogie does Boogie things and ends up going for 40 or ends up going for 15. But yeah, I'll probably still end up playing a decent amount of them. The problem is taking up that center spot. Like I could end up having a lot of lineups with both Thies Nuts and Boogie.
Put some respect in that name. It's Daniel Tice. And FanDuel, you can only roster one center. I think you can roster both on DK, obviously. I hear SBK in my ears. I just want to finish the point that I think Cousins is 1K more on FanDuel at 5.3 as opposed to 4.3 for Tice. Tice is not a power forward. He's a center on FanDuel this evening. But I'm hearing Keach in my ear. Am I not? Keach, are you with us?
I'm with you. What's going on, guys?
What's going on with you? You're in full scramble mode, I imagine, with the Toronto shenanigans. Talk us through these minutes. We just had a conversation about it. Like FEV can't play more than 48. Like he's already going to play 40 or so. Pascal as well. Powell probably jumps in the starting rotation. Terrence Davis becomes kind of, sort of, somewhat of an interesting punt if you need it. And we also think Boucher is interesting for tournaments. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts as far as the Toronto minutes this evening with Lowry being out?
So I'm actually still watching the move. We're still working on it. I was kind of tweaking that up to the minute. But right now we have FEV at 38, Norman Powell at 31. We have Terrence Davis at 16, Malachi Flynn at 10. They did give Yuta Watanabe. I hope I'm saying that right. Some first half run last game, so we still have him with a 10-minute projection. We have your boy Boucher at 19, which could potentially change a little bit. We're shading some minutes towards Stanley Johnson, who we think might potentially be a back of the rotation piece tonight. The back of their rotation has kind of been like little rhyme or reason for what's happening there. It's been kind of like very random the last couple of games. So yeah, I mean, Norman Powell will become pretty appealing, and obviously Fred VanVleet's, very appealing play at this point.
Yeah, I mean, his minutes are already secure. Same thing with Pascal as well, but now their usage probably gets just a little bit more of a bump, and nice matchup there against Sacramento as well. And hey, since we have Sacramento, in my brain, I feel like Fox is not playing, and I feel like Halliburton's going to get some extra run. He may even draw a start. We're not reflecting that. Of course, Fox is still questionable. Do you have a take on this? And are you ready? Are you ready? Do you have a plan? Like, what if this happens? Do you already have it in place? Like, okay, let's kick Fox out and delegate his 30 minutes this way. Is that something you're anticipating potentially?
We do actually have an if-then, I believe, on the homepage for Sacramento. I'm going to check that out now. But, yeah, I mean, I'm kind of with you in thinking that it's more likely that Fox sits. But it's, it's kind of close. Halliburton is obviously like an incredibly appealing play if he's a starter. On FanDuel, I mean, you can kind of play that one late where you can just slot Halliburton in there. And if Fox does go, you have the pivot to Buddy Hield, who has not been good to this point. But if he starts knocking shots down, that's going to change pretty quick. But so here's what we have, assuming Fox is out. We would have Halliburton at a 34-minute projection.
Woo.
He'd be right around a fantasy point per minute, a little bit less than that. Other than that, Corey Joseph at 26, Glenn Robinson up to 24, Kyle Guy would enter the rotation. So not much exciting outside of Halliburton getting a pretty sizable bump.
Yeah, that would be if Halliburton gets me 32 minutes or something like that, and he looks phenomenal. He looks like a really legit player. It hasn't completely reflected in his fantasy points per minute, but it's right around 1, which is fine, not exceptional. But yeah, and a steals guy as well too on a site like FanDuel. I like him a good bit, even on TK. I think he's playable. Do you have a Lakers plan? What's going on here?
I mean, I feel like this is just a nightly. It's almost kind of getting like annoying in a way, just having to deal with this kind of every day. I mean, the plan's pretty much the same. I mean, if LeBron sits, Kyle Kuzma is a pretty enticing play. But yeah, I don't have a real feel for that. I would assume, just given us a back-to-back against a team that's not very good, that there's a chance that LeBron sits. The fact that they didn't have to travel, but the game last night was in LA, this one also in LA.
Yeah.
Maybe that bodes well. So, the short answer, I really don't know.
I'm going to get you back to work in a second. Unless there's anything else you want to fire out there as far as that's worth monitoring. But Brooklyn on a back-to-back, LeVert, obviously a great play. Even Harris off the bench, we can still project for about 30 minutes or so. But is there anything else you can say confident? Like Nash has talked about, like he likes the fact that I'm going to roll out different lineups and different combinations, and maybe he sees this as a challenge. It's just kind of fun for him. What are your thoughts as far as Brooklyn? Like I see Chioza is currently projected for 15 minutes, but he may start out of nowhere. Wouldn't shock me. I don't know. Any Brooklyn thoughts that are worth sharing?
I mean, I'm still kind of where I was last night with them. Like Harris LeVert's an incredible play. Beyond that, it gets very dicey very quickly. Jared Allen, I still like, but there's a lot of variance with him. I think he's been pretty good the last two, but yeah, other than that, I mean, I'm not on the Chris Chioza train by any means. Maybe if we get where he starts, maybe that changes things. But TLC, maybe some very limited interest in, but beyond that, Joe Harris, I still think is kind of appealing in the mid-range. We have him projected for 30 minutes right now and about 0.89 fantasy points per minute, which for him is obviously higher than we're used to seeing. So yeah, it's pretty much LeVert, and then it kind of gets dicey pretty quick.
All right, Keach, crush it tonight. I'll be firing up the lineup HQ later, figuring out what you're doing as far as Toronto, Golden State. Stay tuned as far as Wiggins. But we appreciate you joining us. We'll talk to you again tomorrow. No, Monday. How about that? Enjoy your weekend.
Yep. Thanks, guys. Have a good weekend. Good luck tonight.
Likewise. Yeah. Good talk, Grant. Grant, what have you been doing the last 5 minutes out of curiosity? Making lineups or what? Oh, you're on mute. Come on, man. Really? Oh, my God. Now we lost his internet.
I am on mute. You are correct. I was making lineups the entire time.
Anything of note? Anything you want to share with people?
This is confusing. I mean, I'm just trying to look. I think I'm just trying to figure out what to do with this. What's it called? Toronto situation. I'm starting to look more at OG, which I should have probably just figured out at the beginning. But like, I'm just trying to make lineups right now, leading me a lot to Cole Anthony, which I know will be fairly chalky. But I'm just trying to. I might just backload everything and let it all rely on the Lakers. Like have one or two lineups with a lot of Boston stacks or with Boston stacks, and then pretty much backload everything outside of LeVert. I'll have locked in. I'll have Van Vliet locked in, but that's obviously at the end. I'll probably have OG locked in. But yeah, it's a tough one to figure out with all this possible late news.
Yeah, I saw somebody in chat asking about Brooklyn if you're even going to play tonight. And as to my knowledge, they're going to play, of course, Curry last night. Seth Curry, has been quarantined since like at the first quarter or something like that. Philadelphia might have some issues going forward, as far as guys that sat next to him and, close contact and all that. And Brooklyn played against them. So there may be some issues. But to my knowledge right now, Brooklyn will be playing the game this evening. What other information do we have sprinkled through? Oh, Nerlens Noel is available tonight, which may push back a little bit as far as Mitchell Robinson's minutes. I think he got like a 41 last game, which is insane. But Coach Tibbs, that's his coach, right? Randall's going to play 40 minutes, presumably. Elf has a chance to play 40 minutes. I still think, quickly he's going to take him over at some point because he's more theoretical in the future. But tonight it's probably Elf's game. We've seen it before where Elf was kicked off the court for quickly, but we saw Rivers getting some extra run last game too. I believe Barrett did not close because Rivers was going absolutely nuts for hitting every single three possible. Giannis. Let's talk about Giannis Antetokounmpo. Do we have any thoughts as far as him, as far as the big spends tonight? Is he being kind of sort of somewhat neglected? It's the front end of a back-to-back. Are we in on Giannis, Middleton, rest of the pieces there, Milwaukee?
I mean, Giannis and Middleton are fine. I just don't think they really stand off the page too much to me. Westbrook, even with that finger injury, I'd rather go with if either LeBron or Davis are going to play and one's going to sit, then you just go with either of them. I know Giannis is getting a little lost, but he's still pegged at 10%. There's going to be a lot of people that don't end up playing LeBron or Davis because they aren't going to bother with late swapping around and worrying about that type of stuff because they just want to be done with it. Honestly, I'd rather play Julius Randle than Giannis at 1,000 cheaper. I know he's getting up there in price, but
it's been incredible. Yeah, he's a threat to get a triple double every single night with running Tibbs' offense, and there's a sticker shock for sure, but he's fully justified it. The only tricky part is it's a 7:30 game, and maybe you don't want to be locked in on that with some potential really, really good information dropping later. But I'm not going to besmirch. And you mentioned Westbrook's finger; he's a terrible shooter as is. How much could it hurt him, right? This is like
he's not going to be shooting from behind the arc; he's going to be driving to the hole.
Yeah, and it's an interesting run back, of course, in that game as far as against Boston. And how much Boston is too much Boston? Tice, Brown, Tatum, all three really strong plays. Smart's a solid play as well too. Teague is back, so if you're going to chase like Pritchard, who's no longer still a minimum, I think that's probably a bad idea unless you think the game's going to blow out. But how do you predict blowouts? Can you power rank the Celtics for yourself, and how many can you envision? I know you said it before. You're talking about game stacking potentially. Is that with a run back as far as Westbrook? It gets really expensive if you're playing Westbrook, Tatum, and Brown for what it's worth. But you can make it work if you want to. And then even Tice, he's a cheapie, obviously.
Yeah, I mean Tice is the one that kind of pulls it together. But I'd rank him Tatum, Tice, Brown, just because Tice just makes it work so much better. But yeah, that's probably my rankings. If you want to play smart, if he ends up there, then that's fine. I wouldn't go Pritchard. I wouldn't go Teague. You can take a shot on Taco because again, he kind of helps make things work, but more than likely it's not going to end up too good for you. So that's pretty much how it goes. I love Tatum tonight, but this late news is just changing things around so much. I keep waiting for us to get some news, and I will wait up until a minute or two before the game probably to make my decisions.
Yeah, you mentioned the Magic, or we kind of talked about him. Vooch is a really, really solid play for sure. Cole Anthony is looks like a value play. Rookie playing. He's doing okay. Fantasy points per minute, it's 0.9-ish, and he's not even shooting well. So there feels like there's some upside there. Of course, I imagine he's going to draw the start with Fultz out. I imagine he plays 30 or so minutes, assuming this game doesn't get squirrely as far as a complete blowout. Magic just 7-point dogs here versus Houston. Evan Fournier we have projected in. If he doesn't. We were talking about James Ennis might get some run. We have seen Vuk and Birch play alongside each other. I'm not saying you should play Birch necessarily, but we've seen that. Gary Clark, another guy you don't want to roster, but math says maybe you can consider it. What are we doing there as far as Orlando, especially if Fournier is not playing? Grant, this is. Yeah.
I mean, you can play Vooch. Yeah, you can play Vooch. I'm playing a lot of Cole Anthony. He's one of the cheaper guys that I'm going to be playing in the earlier games. But I don't have a ton of interest in that game. Any one of them are fine, in a nutshell. Without Gordon there, there's going to be some usage to go around. Houston's obviously not playing at a huge pace, but I don't expect that to continue, especially with all the guys in the offense. Anyone's fine, but no one stands off the page. Anthony's by far my favorite, followed by Vooch, followed by Ross, followed by Birch, and Fournier misses just bigger uptick to Ross.
Yeah, and that's going to be reflected in the ownership, I believe. I'm doing a refresh on it. Obviously, we're about an hour before lock. Things are changing. Things are fluid. We talked about a lot of the injuries that we're currently monitoring. On DK, we're seeing the highest ownership projection to Karis LeVert. No shock there. Currently 45%. Then we're seeing Cole Anthony at 38%, sneaking up on nobody, and Tice at 34. That might change if we get Wood ruled out tonight. I think Cousins just go cheap, the double center as far as Tice and Cousins, and kind of load up elsewhere. Brandon Ingram, I feel like he's just a better play than Zion when they're the same price. I like them both, but I like Ingram more. He's got a chance to hit threes. He's got a chance to pepper the box score more so than Zion. He's got a better chance of getting a double-double. Certainly like him as a decent play. What about this night game that we're talking about that we've kind of neglected, basically? It's high, fairly tight, 229.5 as far as Clippers versus the Warriors, and the Warriors are, 7-point dogs? I know we have Wiggins questionable as well, too. Curry can always put 50 points in the bucket. I'm fairly certain this is the back half of a national TV game that does something for you. What are we doing here as far as the Clippers and the Warriors? We haven't really talked about it. Kawhi, pretty good price, historically considering what he's done. Thoughts?
I mean, it's just like Curry might not play, Wiggins might not play. Clippers, don't really give. I mean, we saw this game a few days ago, and I think Golden State ended up losing 101 to 108, which really screwed me over betting on Golden State. But it was just an ugly game for the majority of it. I don't think it's going to be terribly high scoring. I like the under on that game, but just how high it is makes me think that I want to put something in there. But the main thing is, any exposure I have to that game is going to be based on LeBron and Anthony Davis both playing. And then I have to pivot over to Kawhi. I have to pivot over to George. I have to pivot over to Curry. I have to pivot over to some ancillary pieces that may be in play if Wiggins is out. So it's right now not the greatest spot in the world. Curry would be my favorite play just because he can go off for a massive game at any given time. I know he hasn't played well recently, but again, that's all dependent on him playing. Luckily, he's around the same price tag as LeBron and as Anthony Davis, so you can kind of swap over to him based on if all three of those guys are playing is my plan.
I see Devin is compiling a bunch of questions there in chat. And again, if you guys are asking questions, we'll do our best to answer them. Devin's getting them. We prefer not this guy or that guy. We'll answer that. Sure, why not? We prefer bigger, broader questions when it pertains to the 10-game slate. They're going to help out more people. So start firing some questions. I'm not even sure we might even have enough as is at this point. But if you do ask them, tell us what site we're talking about and you're playing tournaments or cash games. Grant, what do you think? Should we – well, how about this? Do you have your tasty beverage? Yeah, you go. Devin, feel free to join. Devin's going to ask some questions as well. Devin, do we have an over-under as far as a clock? How long this is going to take Grant to kill us? What is this? Is this a natter day? What are we drinking here?
This is
only the best for Grant.
Yeah, I was going to save it for the end of the show.
I was going to give him a 3-second time, but I don't know. We might have to account for the delay in his video.
Oh, yeah, Grant, you promised us you have this amazing internet. You splurge. You're spending at least another $8 more per month. And, I don't know what's going on. Your internet's having a rough day.
Yeah, no, it's the router. I talked to the guy last night. I'm setting up the new one tomorrow. I've talked to so many different internet providers and internet people. It's infuriating right now. And someone's asking if I'm considering a perm. I have super curly hair. Yeah,
you were saying it was 10 inches the other night. Your hair, you're talking about. This is the conversation we had off air, and there was a follow-up question.
I was going to say, we're on a slate where we have our basketball players named Ball and someone else named Wood. So there have just been dirty jokes abound in chat today.
Some narrative street lineups that are being made. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, some questionable logic on those narratives.
Any good Richards on the slate?
Well,
so close.
Yeah, unfortunately, not so. Oh, Rashawn, does that qualify? Hey, Devin, you have some questions for us?
I do. Are we going to knock these out, or do you want to do that chug quick?
I'll do it at the end.
We'll save it at the end. All right,
it's too cold for you anyway.
New sub, Will wants to know, what studs do you want to avoid tonight, and when do you expect a verdict on Fox?
Huh. So I would say the studs I'm avoiding tonight, depending what you call a stud, is Booker and Chris Paul. I don't think I'm playing much of those guys because I want an extra half hour of information. Grant?
Yeah, the studs I want to avoid is Harden, Giannis, Beal, Kawhi, and that's pretty much it.
But Beal scored 80 points last game. That doesn't that mean that's going to happen again tonight?
I don't think so. I don't think that's exactly how it works. Curry only scored 50 after he scored 75.
Speaking of questionable logic, Dean. The Goon. Quick question. When you pick your core players, let's just say you take two people. Do you lock them on lineup HQ, and what do you put your settings on? Maybe basic ideas for your exposures. What do you think about that?
I do that sometimes just to kind of see what it spits out. Sometimes just for optimals, I'll max it at 75 or 80%, but at the same time when I'm building lineups and I'm not somebody just regurgitates whatever the optimal says. Sometimes it'll point out something that's oh yeah, I didn't look into that guy. And someone's well, thanks, but no thanks. That's not for me. But yeah, I absolutely will just lock it. I'll probably lock in Tice and just like let's see what that spits out. If Wood doesn't play, then I'll lock in Cousins, and I'll see where that takes me. And then I'll just kind of go through them and like just see, the different percentages on things like that and just what sort of pops and what doesn't. And if I'm like, you know what, I just don't want to play this guy, I'll X him out and then see, okay, now let's get a whole new shuffle. Let's see what's going on there. And, I'll even bump up the minutes and I'll bump up the fantasy points because I'm like, well, I think this guy's a little bit too low. This guy's a little bit too high. My personal preference. And then it'll change it because optimal 1 versus optimal 10 is sometimes like a, 0.5 difference in points or like 0.3 difference in points. That's nothing, in the grand scheme. All right. Grant, did you want to add anything to this conversation? Or
right now I pretty much have LeVert locked in and Van Vliet locked in and OG locked in just because it gives me a little opportunity to move stuff around.
Why are you you're not going to lock in OG, though.
No, it's pretty much because I know I can swap things around. Halliburton has a lot to do with it. LeBron has a lot to do with it. I'll make sure I have one of like Steph, LeBron, Kawhi, something like that in every single lineup, and then move stuff around at the end. But essentially, it's like OG kind of, I can swap over to Halliburton, throw him in either the forward or like there's a few different ways I can do things.
Toss Siakam in that conversation about Van Vliet being a lock. What are your thoughts on Siakam tonight, too?
Great play. Love it.
He's my least favorite of the Toronto plays, but that's not saying a ton because I love Van Vliet and I love OG.
I don't love OG. I think he's fine. Don't love it. I like Haskell.
He's 5.8K. Realistically, he has 40-point upside in this spot. I think he gets a 5% usage increase, if I remember correctly, 4.7% usage increase without Lowry on the floor. Like this is a perfect OG spot, and I'm still not seeing a ton of ownership out of him, which is surprising to me because Lowry not being in there, like they're gonna run such a condensed rotation, and OG I think has a chance to huge usage bump.
And if you want to get frisky, Boucher, and also like if you notice that your lineup is like fine but not spectacular, and like you're probably blocked, like everybody else has the good plays later, and they're ahead of you in tournaments, then you pivot to Boucher, and you make a 3v3 or something like that, and those guys aren't playing Boucher most likely, and that's a way you can track them down. Of course, you might fall back, but Ricky Bobby. Go ahead, Devin.
I know this is going to come as a shock to you guys, but we're already running low on time, so we need to get
in 13 minutes, don't we?
Lightning round. We got a lot of questions here, Dean. Nate wants to know, single entry DK, would you play Brown over Tatum for leverage, or is Tatum just that much better?
Grant, I would say no.
I would play Tatum. Like I'd just play Tatum. You're fine with Brown. I'd rather Tatum. That was not rapid.
Did you guys give your thoughts on Joe Harris tonight for DK?
Love him.
Love?
That's a strong answer.
It feels a little chasey, and he's probably not going to start again, but he probably still plays 30 minutes off the bench.
But he's probably not going to get a ton of ownership still. We haven't pegged at 11.
Yeah, I want to see what that starting lineup is, and maybe he jumps back in the starting lineup. Because again, Nash is just doing some things, and he's having fun with his rotations, I guess. We're not playing Bruce Brown. I'll say that.
No.
That was a pretty big letdown. Eric wants to know FanDuel tournament, Halliburton or Heald if no Fox?
Halliburton.
Yeah, Halliburton.
Like FanDuel, I get playing Heald every single day, but Halliburton's the better play.
You can play both, by the way. If there's no Fox.
Both.
Steak and the lobster.
Just play them.
I was actually thinking of the taco commercial, or it's like soft tacos versus hard tacos. Why not both? Otto wants to know, can you ask Dean, Yahoo Cash, would you rather play Vooch and George Hill or CP3 and Jarrett Allen?
Oh, interesting. It's funny. I have Allen in a lineup and I have Vooch in a lineup, but I don't have any of the other two. So that's weird. And George Hill is just like, he's an old dude fighting basketball terms, and he's going to play. He kind of ekes his way to his 28 minutes or so. Oh, this is lightning round. I assume Allen's going to start today. Man, I just like Allen and Vooch together. Can I just change the question, or it doesn't work that way?
It doesn't work that way, Dean.
Who was the fourth person that I forgot the name of?
It was CP3 and Jarrett Allen.
Yeah. I'll take that side because I don't really want Hill.
All right. And along with that one, are we all in on Taco Fall tonight?
No, it's fun to say, and he went to UCF if you guys haven't pieced that together. And he's in theory, like he could get there like in like 16 minutes. And I don't know what do we have him projected for? Do we have him getting any run? It's possible he gets some run. Like there are other bodies. We got him projected for 13 minutes for the record, and he's a good fantasy point better player, but 10 game slate. It's hard to see him playing 20. Grant, we're not playing Taco, are we?
No.
It's not Tuesday.
All right. Donnie wants to know, FanDuel tournaments, if going Giannis, who's your favorite run back on Utah? Gobert seems a bit too high priced.
Everybody in Utah is priced the way they should be.
Yeah.
And like
Mitchell.
He's a guy that like if he can just like start shooting better, he can pay off that salary.
He's getting the minutes too.
Yeah, I just Utah is like one of my least interesting teams as far as a slate. So I would say this: you don't have to run it back, but in theory, if you're going to get max Giannis, he's going to play the max amount of minutes possible, and that means like Utah is keeping it close.
So
but they all sort of are going to. They're all going to get what they're supposed to get, more or less. I think we saw like the ceiling Conley game. I can't predict that's going to happen. But I guess Mitchell, if you have to pick somebody, but I'm not thrilled.
Mike wants to know, DK Cash, Rivers, Holmes, and Harris, or Joval, Bertans, and Nwaba?
I don't like any of that.
Yeah.
I mean, Rivers feels a little chasey.
How do you really feel, Dean?
I mean, Rashawn Holmes is good for tournaments. I don't think he's a cash game play necessarily. I mean, we've seen it a couple times now when he gets handsy, he gets those 2 fouls really quickly, and he's delegated to the bench, and Bagley gets some extra run, and not that Hassan Whiteside's going to get dusted off, but and also Holmes was questionable coming into today. I think he's been upgraded to probable. Austin Rivers is, I guess, fine, but a little chasey in my mind. Nwaba, okay, so Nwaba on that Houston team, he's probably.
This is not rapid fire.
Well, did you have an answer? I don't like any of it.
Start over.
Going back to Grant, Daniel wants to know Jaylen Brown and James Wiseman or Kobe White, Terrence Ross, DK small tournament.
Probably the second one.
Chris wants to know, who would you take at point guard on FanDuel, White or Lonzo Ball for a tournament?
Lonzo. Not a fan of either of them, but Lonzo.
All right. Friend of the show, Alex, wants to know, whose percentage owned takes the biggest hits with the news that we've learned in the last hour?
That's a good question that I can't think of off the top of my head. Like
It's going to drop their ownership?
Just the biggest
basically
hits.
Like people are shifting towards probably some Toronto stuff, some FEV stuff. Like where is that ownership percentage coming from? It's a good question, but I don't have that answer off the top of my head.
I mean, with Fred VanVleet, like maybe it takes a little bit of a dip with LeVert's ownership, which I'm still locking him in regardless. People will probably play both. But outside of that, like maybe Joe Harris takes a little bit of a dive in ownership because people go on OG. Like, there's not a ton of direct pivots, and people aren't going to change that much. I don't think Van Vliet or OG are going to come in that highly owned.
I'll just say, doing my rankings earlier today, I did not enjoy ranking shooting guards at DK. So, yeah, FEV is going to be popular. I presume he's shooting guard over there. I haven't pulled it up just yet, just because he makes a ton of sense. I know he's kind of sort of pricey, but he just feels so safe with a potential ceiling as well, too.
Don't forget, if we got your questions, smash that like button. BX wants to know, value small forward under 6K. We'll say DK.
All right, under 6K.
All right. I'm pulling up my rankings right now. Let's use this.
OG.
I know.
OG?
OG and Joe Harris.
Yeah, Joe Harris is 5'5". Terrence Ross is 6'1", and he's the guy that like.
That's over 6K.
Well, I understand, but I think it's worth giving him a shout out and a head nod because he's, theoretically he should get a boost as far as what's going on in Orlando, especially if Fournier doesn't play.
Getting technical on Dean over here.
Harry Barnes is 6K. He's fine, especially if Fox doesn't play.
Corey wants to know, Brown, Beal, and Tatum were the highest scoring players as of like 3 days ago. Brown's ownership will be lower, yeah?
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah, I like him. I'm not here to besmirch Brown. Brown's certainly fine.
All right, stacking Boston and Toronto, viable option on DK. I believe we touched on that.
I believe
Boston and Toronto?
Yeah.
Yeah, both of them are good stacks.
All right, drop any other questions if you guys have them. We got about 5
Westbrook
minutes.
officially in, by the way. Wait, do we lose? Do we catch
we're caught up? Believe it or not, we can remove the lightning from this round.
Yeah, you know what? You put the halt on me. You put like the PTI ding, the bell. I couldn't go beyond 30 seconds when I wanted to, and then now look what happens. What do we do the next 5 minutes?
And you can never go beyond 30 seconds.
Oh man,
Razzed.
all the dirty jokes for the day. YouTube's like definitely flagging this episode for us.
They don't get innuendo, do they? Does the algorithm understand
They don't
innuendo?
get innuendo.
How advanced is it? I have no idea.
Tommy wants to
know
know
what helps though?
Van
Is hitting
Vliet
the like button.
Yes, hit the like button. That does help the YouTube algorithm. DK tournament for Tommy. Van Vliet and Tatum or Westbrook Siakam?
Absolutely the first one for me.
Westbrook officially in, for the record, with his finger. So
yeah, you already said that.
Tomorrow. Well, yeah, but it's the NBA.
You want to tell me that Lowry's out too?
Well, I would have told you last night that Sexton was in, and then he was out. So,
hey, Dean, just so you know, LeBron's questionable.
What?
Damn it, got him good.
So all the Anthony Davis, or what's happening there? Is he also questionable?
Rob wants to know FanDuel cash: Ibaka, Blake Griffin, or Brandon Clark.
So this is a wild one. Like Blake Griffin is 5-5 on FanDuel, but it's
Christian Wood will start.
Say it again.
Wood will start.
Okay.
Wood on the floor.
I was about to say, there's a joke coming. I know it.
Wood on the hardwood.
All right, so Boogeyman, that's not happening. That's unfortunate.
Oh, well.
That would have been fun. The Clark is the safest option amongst it. It was Clark, Griffin. If that game theoretically stays close, again, I don't like that because it's the first game, and I just want to buy myself information. So I think that Clark is just as good as Griffin, and he plays later. And who was the third guy?
Ibaka.
Yeah, it's Clark for me.
All right. Juicy wants to know, how does a stack of Celtics and Wizards sound? GPP tournament or GPP DraftKings?
It sounds pricey.
Yeah.
I mean, if you do Tice, Tatum, Westbrook,
you do Westbrook and Beal? Like
I wouldn't do Westbrook and Beal. I feel like they have a small negative correlation, and more people will be chasing Beal. Like Bryant, like the bigs and the main scorers. So Westbrook, Tatum, Bryant, Tice.
You could play Westbrook, Beal, Tatum, Tice, and you have 4-1 left per. So it's doable. It's doable. But, you got to hold your nose in some place.
All right. Well, you mentioned Tice. Eric wants to know, FanDuel tournament, rather pivot off of Tice to someone else in his price range, pay up at center for a different lineup construction. Which would you do out of those two?
Who am I supposed to pivot to? Who are the cheap centers? Let's see. Let's go ahead and pull this up on the fly. Cousins would have been the guy, and he's 5'3", a little bit more expensive. But let's see what we have. Because we have our point per dollar stuff here in Lineup HQ, and it's so drastic as far as Tice versus the field. It's not just that he's supposed to play about 30 minutes or so. It's he's playing 30 minutes or so against Washington, the absolute best matchup you can play 30 minutes against. I'm buying time and saying words as I'm pulling this up. DeAndre Jordan's 3.9.
That's the only guy I was looking at. I mean, it's not great, but if you want to pivot to a low-priced center, it's pretty much him or Taco Fall.
Find a little bit more money for Mitchell Robinson, who's certainly interesting as well, too. And again, he might take a slight hit with Noel playing, being available as far as his minutes, but he's still not priced where he should be.
So many jokes in chat. You gotta love it.
In regards to, should I even ask?
Shocker, dude. You don't have to wonder. All right. I think we might have caught up on all the questions. Don't forget to smash the like button, everybody.
Is your mom still watching the show, or she canceled?
She may be waiting on the beer chug. She got told there was some sort of punishment pending, but
no haircut for me.
No haircut
unfortunately
today.
Yeah. Oh, I hope the kids out there played. What's his name? The dude for. Oh God, he got a cheap 10-10 for. Oh man, Vanderbilt. There you go. Yeah, I played Vanderbilt, and I had Sexton. Hey, this is Daily Fantasy Sports. All I care about is today.
You just had Sexton.
Colin Sexton.
It feels so good.
Woo, this episode.
We are so flagged. But just for fun, put the likes and the turn on notifications. This is not us groveling, is it? I don't know what the max number of what you ask.
I'll grovel. Smash it. Come on, do it.
I don't want to stoop. Grant, will you stoop?
I'm not a man above groveling.
Okay, show me your best grovel.
Please.
Nailed it.
Please have some porridge.
All right, just about a minute left.
To play tonight? I don't think so.
You want to go ahead and get that beer chug out of the way?
All right, just give me a countdown.
You need to just go. Yeah, we got to knock this bad boy out.
Oh, fine.
I'd say that was probably under 3.
Normally is.
Were you doing some producing, Devin? Because I think the video went away for me. I couldn't see the feed. I guess you're messing with some buttons.
Oh, no, I was swapping over to Grant.
That's unfortunate. I missed out. I'm sure it happened. I presume it went down. Well, I'm sure. I don't know if we probably have a show next week.
I believe we do, yeah.
We'll have
another
fun bet. Yeah. All right. So you got crunch time. If you guys are premium members, of course, you guys want to become premium members. Get yourself $10 off the first month. Devin's going to go ahead and drop that link in chat for you guys. You can use this fabulous Lineup HQ tool at your own leisure. All the articles, all the videos, crunch time, which is Andy Means, Kevin Roth, and maybe cards. I don't know. Somebody focusing on tournaments for sure. That was Grant. That was Devin. Thank you for asking us questions. That makes the show so much more fun. We do appreciate that. Hit the like button on your way out. This was basketball. Enjoy your weekend. We're out of here. Holler!
See you, kids.